Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, go ahead and click that subscribe button, click that bell. You just gained a new best friend. If you want to find out what happened in the Cardiopulmonary and Renal module at USUHS, stick around. Let's get into it. Hey besties, I know it's been a while, but let me update you on why it has been about 2 months since I posted. I was in the hardest module at USUHS, which is CPR. Now, anytime your module director tells you during the module orientation that you're not going to be getting as much sleep as you're used to and don't expect it, be prepared to brace for shock, okay? We were told that during orientation and I was like, oh. He was like, you know, you probably won't be able to work out as much. You probably won't be able to do all the things that you are accustomed to doing just because there's that much stuff involved. So this module was jam-packed. It was 9 weeks and it covered 3 big systems. So the first half before the midterm focused on cardio. So as far as lectures go, which once again, they're always pre-recorded, we had anywhere from 3 to 4 lectures. Then for the rest of the week, we ended up having a lab that week on physiology, ECG, and heart sounds. We had histology, small group. We had a lab dissection, and we have pathology. Now, due to the reemergence of COVID, a lot of these sessions were moved to online based, so we really only had anatomy to attend in person and a couple of the small groups. But for the most part of this module, we did do a lot of it online. So besties, CPR, just be prepared to brace for shock. It's a very intense module. You are learning 3 of the biggest systems that no matter what specialty you go into, you're going to have some type of tie to it. So understand just what you're getting yourself into, and give yourself some grace in understanding that it's not just hard for you, but it's hard for the majority, and not just at USU, but also other schools. Because I've talked to some of my friends who do attend the other schools, and it's just so much information that it's a lot. So be prepared. The upperclassmen warned us, you know, they said this module will make or break you, and I am very grateful it did not break me. It was tough, but I'm definitely grateful it did not break me. We are actually the first class where it was extended to be a 9-week module. It's usually an 8-week module, so we got that extra week. So we returned from winter break January 3rd, and on that first day, majority of our lectures were the MEM. So we had military communication we had to attend. We had operational risk management, as well as the vaccine case studies. And that went from 1200 to 1700. So that was a pretty long day. But the good thing was we knocked out most of the military education requirement that day. We only had maybe 2 or 3 other obligations to fulfill for our MEM stuff to complete for the rest of the module. So majority of it was knocked out that day, and then we had about 2 to 3 other tasks to complete the MEM part of CPR, this module. As you can see, there's anywhere from 3 to 4 lectures, and once again, they are pre-recorded. So for me, it's best to get up at 5 a.m. and just knock the lectures out, so then I have the rest of the day, especially when I have to go in person for anatomy lab, histology lab, Pathology lab. Now I will say this module, we had a lot less in-person activities due to COVID, as well as FEPCON changes. So the only major in-person obligation we had was for sure anatomy lab. Some of the other labs were moved to distance learning. So as you can see, it was a pretty busy week. We had lab twice this week. And we only had anatomy lab the first half of this module. So I think in all we had about 5 labs to complete. So this was 1 week, and then I will show you guys a week. But as far as the first half of the module, it was focused on cardio, and we had to learn, you know, all the arteries and the veins, and learn how the heart functions, and go from, you know, the physiology of the heart to then learning the pathology of the heart, and then what goes wrong when certain parts of the heart stop working, or if you have myocardial infarction, or if you have a STEMI, you know, learning how to read ECGs, you know, and understanding, you know, for like when we went to our lab for physiology and heart sounds, learn how to place the leads to, you know, execute a proper ECG. During this module, we had Icr Sessions, which stand for Integrated Clinical Reasoning Sessions. And one thing I appreciate about these sessions was it allowed us to come together as a small group and discuss some of the cases and apply some of the diseases that we have currently learned, as well as interact with a physician who's practicing. And especially so for the first half, it was more so cardiologists we were speaking with. So our first one was called Neonatal Transition, and each session they give a handout that you'll read information in reference to the subject material. You do some practice problems, and then at the end there's cases that you go through during the small group. So we had in total 7 sessions. The topics range from neonatal transition, cough, dyspnea, syncope, acid base, hyponatremia, and kidney disease. And you know, you had to do the pre-work before going to these small groups. But like I said, I did like the fact that they were integrated because it allowed us to start applying this information, thinking of differentials, to figure out some of these cases. So during the first half, we also had to go over to Walter Reed in the simulation center and, you know, sit down and see how a cardiology physical exam would go. You know, what are you looking for? You know, where should you also tape? Where should you palpate? And, you know, just a step-by-step approach. So big highlights for the first half of the module is just expect it to be very busy, because you are going to be having to attend your anatomy sessions. You're going to have to be doing your pre-work for your Icr sessions. You're going to have to do pre-work for your pathology sessions. So you just want to make sure that you stick to a schedule, because you want to have time to get through your lectures. You want to have time to do your pre-work. We also had a few assignments due this half of the module as well. We had to go see a standardized patient, and based on what we had learned in reference to some of the different pathologies, we saw the standardized patient. We had to do a complete HPI, a complete medical interview, a physical exam, as well as a conclusion to let the patient know what our next steps would be. And then we would have to present to preceptor, you know, our differential, what our plan was, basically do a SOAP. So that for me was a little bit stressful, only because in the previous modules we had multiple opportunities to kind of practice the physical exam. And in this module, we only had that one time that we went to the Sim Center at Walter Reed to kind of practice. And then we had to go and actually, you know, perform this physical exam and, you know, basically do a whole appointment with the standardized patient. in 20 minutes. So I did feel, you know, a little nervous, but it did turn out very well. We got our feedback from our preceptor. We also had to turn in a case report. So it was a lot. So just come into this module understanding that it's going to be challenging, but if you stick with a schedule and you don't wait last minute to complete these assignments, you can stay on top of it. But for the midterm, we did have a faculty exam, an MBME exam, as well as the anatomy practical. So that kind of sums up the half semester before the midterm. Let's get into after the midterm. So the first 2 weeks after the midterm, we focused on pulmonary. So I'm gonna bring you guys back to the calendar. So week 5, as you can see, it's still about 3 to 4 pre-recorded lectures that you're responsible for. Now, there are some of my classmates who have chosen to not watch the faculty lectures. I personally have FOMO, fear of missing out, so I have not let go of the faculty lectures yet. But on the pass down, which is a bunch of information from previous classes, they do have an Excel sheet that shows what third-party resources match the curriculum that's being presented in the faculty lectures. So I did utilize that Excel sheet and watch some of the third-party lectures, especially if I didn't understand the subject material from the faculty videos alone. So I don't discourage it because I definitely utilize that Excel sheet. However, I personally do not plan to let go of the faculty lectures, just because we have faculty exams and they're going to be testing specifically on what they taught on their lectures. But to each his own, you know, do what works for you. But as you can see, week 5, we had about 3 to 4 pre-recorded lectures. And then, like I told you guys, we no longer had anatomy for that second half of the module. So it was some days in this module where we actually got like off days, and it wasn't like a holiday attached to it. So that gave you time to kind of play catch up. And this whole module, I felt like I was playing catch up because there's just so much material, and trying to keep up with Anki, trying to keep up with watching the third party resources, and trying to keep with lectures. It just seemed like I was constantly on this hamster wheel trying to keep up. So I definitely appreciate some of the off days. So as you can see, on this Monday, we really didn't have that much to do. Then on Tuesday, we had histology, which usually histology and pathology are in person, but for this module, they were distance learning just because of COVID precautions. And like I told you guys earlier, some military FEPCON changes. We also had another ICR. Told you guys that was the integrated clinical reasoning, and then that was the Tuesday. And then Wednesday we had a lab dealing with airway ventilation and thoracic trauma, which that was really fun, and just learning how to intubate and to, you know, put a tube down, and it was a great learning experience. And we were actually in person for that lab. For that Thursday, we had another ICR session, and then on Fridays, there's usually reviews, but they do record them, so you can decide to watch them at a later date. I usually go to the reviews on Fridays, but this time I didn't, so I ended up watching the reviews closer to when it was time for the final. But like I said, it's an option. You don't have to be there. It's optional, and they'll let you know if it's optional or if it's something that is mandatory. As you can see here, we had brigade time, and that's just where we get together based on our branch, and information is, you know, disseminated to us. So that was week 5. So like I said, like 2.5 weeks after the midterm was really focused on respiratory, and then the last part of the module they focused on renal. Now I'm going to show you guys week 7. As you can see, there's not as many lectures. We were down to maybe 1 to 2 lectures at that point. We still had our pathology, and I've explained this before, but the way our path labs work, we work as fire teams, and I do have pre-work before getting to the pathology lab, because you will have a quiz in the beginning of the pathology lab, which you are allowed to work with your fire teams. Because we were not in person this time, they allowed us to, you know, hop on Zoom or any type of video chat platform and perform the quizzes together. And then at the beginning of the path lab, we would discuss the answers, and then we would go on to the actual lab. So that was kind of how pathology work and histology. Like I said, those are usually in-person classes, but because of what I mentioned before, they were moved online. So as you can see, that Monday we have pathology from 9:30 to 11:30, and then we had histology from 1 to 2:30. Then on Tuesday, that was one of like our off days. You see, we still have lectures, but like I said, those are pre-recorded. Many of my classmates like to front load and basically watch all the lectures. Now, it was a little bit harder to try to do that in this module, because for the majority of the module, they did not release the next week until that Friday. So once they did actually release all the rest of the weeks, I think it was around week 6 or 7, they released the rest of the weeks. I personally went ahead and tried to watch the rest of the lecture, so that way I had 2 full weeks to review. But it just depends on how the module is set up. Some module directors, they open up the whole module, and that allows people to try to get ahead with the lectures. Some, they do a week by week basis, so you'll find out when you get to that module. As you see on Wednesday, we had another small group for antihypertensive and hypolipidemic. And then we had a mandatory OSA check-in, and they were just checking in to kind of this was more so like a wellness check-in to kind of make sure, you know, we're doing well and we're taking care of ourselves and our mental health, and, you know, what that means to us. And it was just a temperature check, really. And then we had a Renal Ultrasound Lab, which was super fun. We actually got to ultrasound the kidneys and just be able to see it and interact with the ultrasound. I think was super helpful, and understanding like where they're actually at anatomically when you don't have a cadaver opened up, right? So that was an in-person lab, of course. And then on Thursday, we had pathology. Once again, that was a distance learning opportunity. And then we had another ICR session. So as you can see, we had a lot of these ICR sessions sprinkled throughout the module. We would have maybe 1 to 2 a week. So, and it applied to whatever we were learning. So if we were doing this ICR acid base, we would have had a lecture on ICR acid base. And then as you can see on Friday is usually just a weekly review. It's an opportunity for students to come and ask their questions, or just get more explanation, or maybe some information that they didn't really understand during the faculty lectures. So those are optional. You do not have to attend those, but they are there for you if you would like to. So we ended up, like I said, this module was 9 weeks. So the 9th week, that's when we were doing all of our testing. We did have a faculty exam, we had an MBME exam, and we had a rheology oral board. And this was our first oral board since we've been in medical school, and it was very low yield. It you know, they had already went through a chest x-ray explaining how, you know, to analyze it, you know, the A, B, C, D, E's of an chest x-ray. And as long as you know, paid attention to some of the small groups where they were talking about the chest x-rays, and the lectures where they discussed it, then you were fine. Very low yield. So I guess just to summarize, this was a very intense module. This was the hardest module to this date, but we survived. I passed all my faculty, MBME, and oral boards for my final. So I'm definitely happy to be moving forward past CPR. I'm going to just be honest with you guys. It wasn't the highest scores I've gotten since I've been here, but I passed. As long as you pass, that's what matters here. P equals MD, okay? Pushing P. So I just want to encourage you guys that although it's challenging, you can get through this. And don't be, I guess, don't be like taken aback if you see yourself constantly trying to change your study methods, because what worked for MSK is not going to work for CPR, you know, and you just have to make those micro adjustments so that you can pass. And as long as you pass, you move forward. So we are currently halfway through our modules so we are currently halfway through for our pre-clerkship modules. So it's pretty much down here from here. They start talking to us about our summer operation experience, and we'll get more information. So as soon as I get more information on that, I will let you guys know about that. And that's basically an opportunity for a lot of the individuals who do not have prior service to get out there and kind of see the military outside of medicine. So there's opportunities to go on a ship, there's opportunities to go work with special forces, there's a lot of opportunities that they allow the medical school students to go do at the end of our I believe it's our GI module. You get about 2 weeks to go do something, and they allow you to do a dream sheet, so you write down some of the choices that you would like to participate in, and then, you know, they'll say yes or no to that experience, and then that's what you would do after GI, and then whatever time you have left, that would be considered your summer break. So most people are only going to get about a week of break before we move into our second year. So there's a lot there's a lot going on within the next couple of months. Our white coat ceremony is May 6th. I'm definitely going to try to make that a live recording. I just have to kind of see how that's going to work. So I definitely encourage you guys to check that out if you do have the time. And outside of that, like I told you guys, the next module is neuro. So I'm definitely excited about that. Once we finish our first year, which doesn't finish until the first week of July, we will have 5 out of the 7 modules completed. So we will only have 2 modules left when it comes to our second year and basically completing our pre-clerkship. And then January, we start on our clinical years and start rotation. So super exciting. Thank you guys for supporting me and being here for the ride. I'm hoping I'm answering those questions. I'm hoping I'm being transparent enough for you guys to see what's going on and how, you know, being a medical student at USU really works. If you guys have any questions or any ideas that you would like me to speak on, please reach out to me at my email or at my IG. I definitely want you guys to have that option to ask those questions, because I know on the internet, from personal experience, there wasn't that much information out there. So that sums up what CPR module is. So when you get in medical school, it's going to be fast paced. It's going to be a lot going. You're going to think like, how am I going to complete all this? But if you set tangible goals, you set a schedule, and you commit, and I think if you set aside time to kind of study, you know, a little bit a day, it won't be so much at the end to where you feel like you have to cram. Remember self-care, self-care, self-care. Remember to take those off days, you know, get away, give your mind time to relax and not be constantly bogged down with this information, because it's just as important to take that time off as it is to study. So that's all I have for you guys, besties. I love you guys. Thank you so much for rocking with me, and stay tuned for my next video. I do plan on doing a couple of videos now that I'm on my spring break. So if you have some ideas where I could just do a quick video on it, please, 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 IG, DM me, email me, and I wish you guys the best.